Our ancestors managed to invent the most sophisticated form of communication on Earth.
Language, in many ways, defines what it is to be human.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Language has evolved exceptionally rapidly within humans. And so human language is probably the key innovation that has allowed humans to spread so rapidly across the globe and to dominate the planet ecologically.
Just where did human language come from? How did we make the leap from the seemingly simple noises made by other animals to precise words that form the most complex method of communication on the planet? From fossils, paleontologists know that our ancestors branched off from apes about 5 million years ago. But precisely when our ancestors first evolved the capacity for language remains one of evolution's greatest mysteries.
I think it's important to remember that, like lots of other things in the natural world, human language evolved. It didn't just arise. It was selected for over evolutionary time, and the parts of our brain that are involved in language were also selected for.
Searching for the elusive roots of human language led neuroscientist Jared Tagliatella to take a radical approach. He wondered if the brains of our closest living relatives might reveal a clue as to how our language evolved.
From the genetic evidence, we know that chimpanzees and humans shared a common ancestor some 5 million years ago. But what we don't know is really what chimpanzees and humans have in common when it comes to communication.
Having worked with chimps for years, Tagliatella knew they communicated in a human-like manner.
Chimpanzees use sounds, what we call vocalizations. They also use gestures, which they can make with their hands by actually extending a hand out or even touching another individual. They'll make different faces to express either something they want to accomplish or in response to what another individual has done. So in some ways, chimpanzee communication is really similar to human language because it involves the use of all these different things: facial expressions, body postures, sounds.
Tagliatella also observed that when chimps wanted food, they seemed to use specific symbols, a seemingly crude form of sign language. He knew that in the human brain, a region called Broca's area becomes activated when humans not only speak, but use sign language as well. Were chimps employing the same part of their brain to communicate? And if so, could it give us clues on the evolutionary steps that developed language? Could the origins of our greatest evolutionary achievement be found inside the brains of chimps? Using a brain imaging device developed for humans called a PET scanner, Tagliatella embarked on an unprecedented study. He wanted to capture 3D images of the brains of chimps as the animals gestured and called for food to see if they might have their own version of Broca's area.
So this was very exciting for us because it was really the first time that anyone had looked at what was going on in the chimpanzee brain during their communication.
Comparing images of human brains to chimp brains when communicating, Tagliatella found remarkable similarities. The chimps were using a part of the brain that appeared to be in the same position as Broca's area.
It's been thought that these areas that are involved in speech production, in language production, arose just in humans and probably weren't present before we split with chimpanzees. What this tells us is that maybe these parts were already used for communication, even before we had human language. And so this really changes how we think language may have evolved or how language may have come to be.
Language may have its roots in a relative that our earliest ancestors split from 5 million years ago. But if humans and chimps share the same language center in their brains, why were humans the only species to ultimately develop language?
What we still don't really know is why did humans set off on this unprecedented trajectory? Why did natural selection just keep selecting on bigger and bigger brains, 3 times as large as a chimpanzee's? Clearly, along the course of evolutionary time, complexity in our communication was selected for, as was increased complexity in our brain. But the real answer as to why this may have happened, we're really not sure.
What could have been the pressures that led our ancestors to evolve language? Was it an adaptation for living in large numbers? A need to band together in a hostile world? For now, scientists can only speculate. For though we humans may just be on the cusp of understanding why we stand alone in our capacity to express complex ideas, to write down our thoughts, or to reason with each other, this much is clear. Communication, even in its most basic of forms, provides all creatures, great and small, with a powerful strategy for survival.